Dangerous for those who travel this way, as well as for those who ended up helping them. This book is about the mysterious railroad, how it worked, who rode on it, and why its very name meant freedom.
So I decided to do a video about this. To me looks like an elementary school class, maybe a low middle school class, talking about the Underground Railroad. I'm thinking more of an elementary school, possibly a parochial school with uniforms based on the things on the wall. I find it kind of odd that she's reading to the class, maybe at this level. I feel like this is something that could have been signed as independent reading.
The Underground Railroad wasn't a real railroad. It was a secret way to get from the South and slavery to North and freedom. Sometimes you would ride on a real railroad, sometimes in a horse-drawn cart, sometimes in a fancy carriage, sometimes on a boat, and sometimes on a horseback. And much of the time you would walk. A whole trip was called the Underground Railroad. So they didn't have one way of travel. How many different ways did they have? Quite a few, right? What's one way that they got around? I know.
Horseback.
Horseback, sure. Boat. Lex?
Fancy carriages.
Fancy carriages. And Aaron?
Horse and
Good, a horse and carriage. Matthew?
carriage.
Good, they would walk. Very good.
Now I know this is kind of weird with me breaking in like this into the middle of the video, but with this format, with this program, it seems like that's what I'm going to have to do. I like the way she got the kids engaged in the question and answer type to kind of review over what the kids were learning. Now, this looks like a very small classroom. Either that or the camera angle is not very good. So all the kids were involved, but I feel like this is not very advanced because basically it's almost like call and repeat.
When you traveled on the secret way, you stayed at a special hiding place through the South and North. What were those secret hiding places called? Alex?
Stations.
Stations, good. Other times people hid you until you could travel on. The houses the slaves hidden along the way were called stations. People who helped the fugitives called railroad workers. Some were called conductors. They would lead you to the next station. Others were called station masters. They would feed you and give you a place to sleep until you found the next station. And who was the most famous conductor? Yes, Steph.
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman. Let's see how.
You can clearly see that this is a unit on Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. However, the book doesn't seem to maybe reinforce Harriet Tubman or the unit on Harriet Tubman as much as is the Underground Railroad. Now, it's kind of confusing that in the middle of the questioning, she would drop in a Harriet Tubman question. Although I do think it's relevant, it was just a little confusing to me.
The Underground Railroad actually got its name. There's a story of a runaway slave called Tice Davids. Sometime in the year 1831, he escaped from his owner and his home in Kentucky and swam across the river to the town of Ripley, Ohio. The owner could see Davids in front of him crossing the river, but when Davids landed on the shore, he vanished from sight. The owner searched all through the town, but Davids was nowhere to be found. Finally, the owner gave up and went home to Kentucky. He could not figure out what happened to Tice Davids. Bewildered, he shook his head and said he must have gone on the Underground Railroad.
I'm starting to notice at this point in the lesson that she's starting to lose some of the kids. Kids are putting their heads on their desk. They maybe aren't paying as close of attention as they were at the beginning, which I feel is one of the drawbacks to reading a text to a child and not having them do it independently. Now, like I said, being in an elementary school class, this may be standard practice, but like I said, just looking at the kids, it looks like it's a little bit more advanced elementary So I'm still kind of questioning if this is the right format.
Soon, many people knew about Tice David's escape. Steam engine trains that had just been invented, and people began to say Davids had escaped on an underground railroad. The name stuck, and from then on, whenever slaves escaped, people said they traveled on the Underground Railroad. It was a perfect name, underground, because it was a secret and you couldn't actually see it. Railroad, because it seemed to run regularly and swiftly. So we're pretty close with all of our guesses of why it got its name. Let's see.
I think that having the kids guess as to why it was called the Underground Railroad would have been a really good way to introduce this lesson when they were filming it, instead of going directly into reading the book. Having the kids guess would have been a good introduction point. I feel like the lesson just kind of jumped in and is a little chunky.
Why would you run away? Let's see why the slaves actually ran to freedom. Aya?
Because their owners were treating them badly.
Yeah, they weren't treated very nicely. Many slaves ran away.
The one thing that I'm looking at with this is looking at some of the bullet points on the assignment. I really don't feel like the teacher really engaged the students in constructing meaning. I think this was more of a like a call and response type of lesson. You can tell that she did link their prior knowledge, because you can tell that they've been working on this for a little while. And then, put in some new concepts like the Underground Railroad. Like I said, I feel like this is a little bit less advanced classroom setting than maybe the age would dictate. That could be my own biases, though. I don't know what grades these kids are in, but it just seems it seems very simplistic. Maybe the concept of complex texts weren't really followed here, because this text itself seems very simple and very just fact-based and not story-based. Overall, the teacher did a good job keeping the students engaged for the most part by asking questions and breaking it up a little bit, adding her own little spin on things. But overall, I feel like this is a kind of a simplistic lesson, and really didn't glean a whole lot of more meanings from a complex text.